go off the wave with Zishan Ramlan. We have Zishan Ramlan with us today. He's the Vice President Global HR for CleverTap. He's the ex-head of HR of CoinSwitch. He was the emerging leader for Economic Times and a TEDx speaker himself. So Zishan, welcome on the show.
Pleasure, Pia. Thanks for having me here.
The topic of today's podcast is parenthood from the lens of a father. So Zishan, tell us something about your family.
Well, thank you so much, Pia, for having me here. I think in the last 16 years of my career, this is my first external event as a father, so I am super excited to be here. My family comprises of two little kids, Zayden, the older one, who's 8 years old, and Zeheb, who's 3 year old. I'm married to Yasmin, who is a orthodontist. I come from a family of doctors. All my siblings are in the medical profession. I'm the only one who's a non-doctor at home.
So that's quite a handful, Zishan. And 3-year-old, I'm mother of 2.5-year-old twins, so I can completely understand. 3-year-old must be really small and really needs a lot of attention. And they say that parenthood kind of changes you. There's this whole saying, right? Do you think it is true, not true? What it has been for you as an experience?
Oh, absolutely. I think it changes you as a person completely. What it beautifully also does to you is it brings the child in you. You always have that childish qualities in you that comes out when you become a father. It has taught me many things in life. The ability to be selfless, I can share stories around it. The ability to kind of be accepting of people, gratitude, patience. Interestingly, I was interviewing a sales leader last week, and I happened to ask her what is one quality that you've learned in sales. And she told me that she's learned patience. And I told her, does that help you manage your child a little better? Does that teach you patience while dealing with your kids? And she told me, no, Zishan, my 3 year old boy taught me more than my sales role could have. Right. So it's a continuous learning process as a father, I believe.
Yes, and I think that as fathers, there's a huge role to play in the upbringing of the child. Though often discounted and often thought that the mothers play a very more important role, but fathers given that support. I was reading a research, and that research was conducted in Atlanta across 48 families, and they saw that the families which had more fathers involved, the children's emotional well-being was far better than the families in where the father's involvement was less. So fathers give that support, the protection, the fact that nobody can do anything or harm me, the protection, the support, the resilience comes from the father. Any thoughts on that?
Absolutely. I think, in an equal parenting world, one has to be a bad cop and the other person has to be a good cop. At the same time, I think what I've observed, right? I think kids find that safe space in a dad or a father, right? So when they go through multiple emotions, they want to come to you and express. And as a father, you should probably be very open, accepting, and tolerant towards different emotions that a child can actually share. The child may come throwing tantrums, may be angry about certain things because they do not know how to deal with it. But because you've seen the world, you're almost 10 times the age of your child, you need to be immune to it and just accept and give a very safe space for the child to feel that tomorrow, if at all things go wrong in my life, I can always walk up to my father and discuss that. I shared that bonding with my dad, that bond with my dad, and I try to share the same bond with my child. So my child feels that I am a safe space in the future when things, God forbid, goes wrong.
Thank you, Zishan. That was really insightful. And one thing that I wanted to understand from you, you said that one of your child is 8 years old. That means that now today in a 16-year career that you were at an 8-year mark, which means you were not too senior, not too junior. You were in the midst of things where you had to achieve a lot. Did you find it daunting? Did you find it difficult? How did you navigate the corporate world with the birth of your child, with a emerging career, and you did so many things also, like what we spoke about in introduction. How did you go about managing all that?
So I have a very interesting story. When Zayden, my older one, was born, it was a transition. I was with Infosys as a senior lead HR business partner, and I'd got a role with Intuit, heading their people and culture. And it was a leadership role that I was stepping into, and it's a role that I didn't want to kind of miss. So my wife was in her ninth month when I had to join because the CEO was visiting, and they were very accommodative. They told me that just visit once. It was 1 week before the due date. Just visit, and then you can kind of go back. So I'd planned that way that I planned my joining just a week before Zayden was born. And the Friday, I remember I reached back Mangalore, which is my hometown. And Saturday morning, I reached back Mangalore. And within 4 hours, my wife was taken to the hospital and Zayden was born. The joy that you have, I'm sure people watching this podcast would be able to relate to. The joy that you have holding your baby and watching the baby for the first time in the hospital is a joy that no accomplishment that can ever give you, right? I'm sure you'd be able to relate to as a mother of twins. And my organization, like Intuit, like hats off to the kind of culture, and I'm really grateful for many people at Intuit. Uh, were very accommodative, and they told me you can join us and then take paternity leaves. You can join us and take all the benefits that we have, but we want you to join us and just attend this one meeting, which is very crucial. It happens once in 6 months or a year. So that's the beautiful journey. The first year was very difficult because my wife was in her final year post grad, and I was in this opportunity that I didn't want to miss. And I think 90% of the credit goes to my wife for being able to kind of beautifully balance education and childcare. But I think the journey has been beautiful and very emotional at times. There were times where I would be in Bangalore, feel very bad that I couldn't probably be there. But there were times where I fulfilled. So when it came to Bangalore, I'd probably stretch myself, help, and see how I can kind of contribute, right, collectively. So it's been a beautiful journey, I can say.
Very nice, and nice to listen to this corporate angle of yours as well, where you said that your organization was fully supportive. That leads me to one leading question, and want to know your views on that. Do you think corporate India has has warmed up to the idea of men becoming an equal parent? Is parenthood for men treated as equal or as important as for the women? What are your thoughts on that, Zishan?
I think we are getting there, Pia, to be honest. We are not there as yet, but we are getting there. Being treated equally, like the contribution that women bring into this entire scheme of things is much more than what a father would kind of bring in the initial phase, right? It could be feeding or any other care that the child needs. But I strongly believe that corporates have like got in there. You can see many organizations that has equal parenting policies. You have many organizations that has varied paternity leave and things like that. I can give you a quick example. Intuit, the company I work for, had paternity leave that could be used in the first 1 year, anytime for your child vaccination. It paid for your child's education. There were nanny expenses kind of thing being reimbursed and things like that. At the same time, CoinSwitch and CleverTap have had great facilities or flexibilities in terms of ensuring that from a parenting perspective, paternity leave perspectives also, there are good policies and benefits that can kind of help. So I think overall organizations have like got into this accepting mode and has a lot of men friendly policies, I could say.
So that brings me to one thing, because this is something that I've observed in my 20 years as CHRO and having been worked in so many organizations. I've never seen a man coming to any of us and asking that, okay, my child has a cricket match and can I take an off tomorrow? I'm not saying that they're not attending the cricket match, but I'm saying that maybe they would have applied for a PL, or they would have applied for a sick leave. They would have taken some way out. But I have never come across a situation where it is acceptable to say that I'll be off office because I'm required somewhere else as a parental duty, which is not very important. It's not vaccination, it's not this, but it is watching cricket match, and that is very important for me as a father. I don't see that happening. Any observations on that? Have you seen that happening?
Like honestly, personally for me, I've not shied away from talking. In fact, I spoke to my current manager just last week saying, "Hey, I need time off because my son has a sports day." I had to cancel one of the visits to Mumbai because I had to celebrate my son's birthday and I had to be here.
Very nice.
And I ensure that as managers or leaders, right, it's very important for us to lead by example. Male reportee who discusses everything about his child, son to me, about his medical needs or anything, and I'm very open to it, right? Because that's how you lead by example and also build the future generation. You want to kind of get them to become better people managers who are accepting of any situation, right? Immaterial of the gender you're kind of part of. So I personally haven't witnessed, but I'm sure like this is an interesting point, Pia. It could be back of the mind, right? That would it be accepting for people for me to tell that hey, I have my son's PTM. Can I kind of be part of it and things like that? I think that could probably be a thought, but I have not seen that personally in my career.
And not be apologetic about it, because I've always believed, and I've always said that there's nothing called work life balance. It is integrated. There is work and there is life, and both is work and both is life, right? So
Absolutely.
sometimes work will take priority, sometimes life will take priority, and work is life for that matter, if you really
Yes.
think of it like that. But Zishan, while on the topic, any nice anecdotes about your child? Anything that aha moment for you that you would like to share?
There are many, like I told you, Pia. Nothing. The I'm sure people watching this can relate to, right? You've had a stressful day. You go home, open the door, and you see your little one smiling. All the stress goes away. That's the best kind of relief I can say. Right? There are many situations like this that I can remember, but I think one of the most beautiful stories that I'll cherish and I'm hoping my child will also cherish for a long time is my older one, Zayden, was, I think, 2 years when we visited Bhutan. And if you're familiar with places around Bhutan, there's a beautiful place called the Tiger Nest, which is a uphill 3 to 4 hour kind of a trek spanned across 5 kilometers, but it's uphill, pretty scary, and it's rated as I think one of the most visit, one of the must visit place before you die kind of a thing. Though it's beautiful, but it's uphill and it's a task. And having a little child, right? It's very difficult to kind of even imagine going up there, and I probably didn't have. So we have a small group called the Trippers Club. It's been like what 10, 12 years that we've been traveling together to 25 different places around the world, and we went around Tiger's Nest, and I planned not to kind of go, but then I saw the excitement. Everybody was excited, and they said, "Let's make it happen." You won't believe for that complete trek, I held my son on my shoulder and I trekked upwards. As I reached the mountain peak, mm, I had this set of people standing in the line, both sides, cheering for me, saying, "You made it." And people started saying that, "Hey, I hope and wish that your child remembers that he sees a role model," kind of a thing. Sometimes I believe as fathers, we are super critical about ourselves. It's a selfless service. We are very critical about ourselves. Have we been a good father? I go to the night thinking that hey, this is what I could have done slightly better. But these are the times that these are some of those moments where you get a pat on the back and feel proud to be a father and being able to kind of do something for your child. So I still have that picture captured. Maybe I can share that with you post this podcast. But I think that's one of the most memorable journey stories that I've had.
Oh, lovely. That's really nice and inspiring too, Zishan. I'm sure that people who are listening to this podcast will surely relate and want to make something like this extraordinary happen for themselves. But Zishan, tell me, like all the good things apart, any regrets or any advice that you would like to give to new parents, or any regret that you have that you think you could have done it a bit differently?
If you ask my wife, should I have a regret? She'll say, no, you've been a really good father. But for a person I am, I end up overthinking at times. I'm self-critical, so I have a lot of regrets. there are occasions, right, where we would have ended up shouting at a child and wished that night, oh my God, what a miserable parent we've been, and things like that. As I look back, uh, I feel the only regret that I have is look, time flies. Like, feel Zayden was just born yesterday. Zaheb is now 3 years, but I just feel that I was just playing with him. And he was also very, like, born pretty recently. Time flies, and it's important, Pia, for us to remember that live in that moment, enjoy that moment, because that won't come later, right? And that's exactly what my message for fathers is. Don't be harsh on yourself. I was at a sports day event recently, and I put a picture on Instagram, and a friend of mine sent me a message saying, hey, I just wanted to let you know that you've been a great father, and when I grow up, I would love to be a parent like how you've been to your kids. And I told her that, hey, thank you. Last night I went to the bed thinking I could have been a better father. So I feel sometimes it's selfless. You tend to like be harsh on yourself, thinking, have you done enough for your child, etc. But remember, generations have changed. You're doing much more than what previous generations could have done. And feel happy. Don't be too critical. And sometimes go to your kids and ask them, are you a good father? And they will tell you yes, and you'll need that reassurance.
Absolutely, completely agree with you. Uh, Zishan, just one last question and insight I would like to have from you. Given that it is a corporate audience as well, d- how do you think corporate India could make the policies, like all the good policies that you've just spoken about, the adoption of the policy, or to ensure that these policies are used as aggressively as overworking is, how does corporate India get on that path? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think communicate and over communicate, right? Sometimes over communication is a good thing because it sends a strong message that you are accepting a type of belief that goes against the general stereotype and practice. So when you have policies, the essence of having a gender neutral policy or a policy that's that is catered to any of the gender, favoring is the wrong word, excuse me. It's important for you to communicate. The more you communicate, the usage kind of increases. Second, be open. Like I see today, like I saw a lot of things happening within Clever Tap for Men's Day. I go to my LinkedIn, I see a lot of call outs and things like that, right? Celebrate events. Don't shy away from events. Participate, have role models, get founders to speak about fatherhood and any policies. I think the essence is communication. Ensure we have metrics to track. It's not just about the launch, it's about what has happened from point A to point B, whether you've seen a change, if not, why. Hear from people, make those adjustments. And no policy can be implemented well without the support of managers or leaders. As managers and leaders, please be role models to encourage your team members to take something, show a little bit of flexibility. If they want additional work from home because they're going through a journey or they have to support somebody, etc., let them do, because you're just teaching a generation to be better versions of themselves as they grow up.
Oh, lovely. That I think those are really great advice and really pearls of wisdom from you, Zishan. And I'm so happy that I had my first podcast with you. And I'm sure that the people listening into it would also be as elated and would have surely gained some insight for their own personal journey. Thank you so much, Zishan, for joining in, and very happy International Men's Day to you as well, and to all the colleagues on the call who will be listening into this podcast. Thank you once again for joining in and watching it till the end. Thanks a lot, Zishan. Any last words from your end before we wind up?
No, I think, Pia, thank you so much for having me here. It's a pleasure. There are very few people who would probably think this way and try and launch a podcast during Men's Day and have it. But really appreciate and congratulations on the great work you're doing within Wave HR. And I hope this inspires, and I hope that you have a great start with your podcast and continue to have many such inspiring teams.
Thank you so much, Zishan. Thanks once again. On that note, thank you everybody and see you on the other side of the podcast. Thanks a lot.